the Champions of HR Mentoring Program. My 24-hour karat gold 18 diamond studded Rolex says that the time is about 3 minutes past 4 o'clock in Nigeria, and Nigerian time is our reference time. So we will give it a couple of more minutes to see how many more participants will be joining us, and then we will kick off as usual. So welcome to those who have come in early. Nkiruka was the first to come in here. So Nkiruka, welcome. Tracy, Anu, welcome. Ahmad, Angela, welcome. And we'll give it a couple of more minutes and we will see who else decides to join us, and then we will proceed with today's session. To Champions of HR Mentoring Program. I see that we have a few more participants who joined us from when we started off at 4 o'clock. And as promised, it's now about 6 minutes past 4. So we will proceed with the program. My name is Oma Bisher Barrow, and I am your facilitator from Learning Impact. And like we have announced, the program topic today is human resource as a change manager, and it is part of our continuing series on the Champions of HR Mentoring Program, which is targeted at early and mid-career human resources management professionals to equip them with skills and practical insights and best practices that can enhance the work that they do as human resources managers and practitioners. The idea of the program, of course, is born out of our experience that, every professional practice requires continuous mentoring and improvement. And so we at Learning Impact are very pleased to share from our experience, our insights, our research, because we are constantly interacting with organizations, with leaders, with human resources professionals and managers, and we are constantly learning about some of those challenges that we are faced with, and we see that there are gaps. There are gaps in terms of capabilities, and so we thought to offer some type of intervention to bridge those gaps, hence the Champions of HR Mentoring Program. So again, welcome to everyone. So today, the subject matter of human resources as a change leader, as a change manager, and it's driven by the earlier workshops or the earlier seminars that we have had. So when we started off a couple of months ago, we introduced the Dave Ulrich model. Dave Ulrich is the foremost scholar and in the area of human resources management from the Michigan Ross Business School in the United States. And he came up with this amazing framework called the HR Capability Model, some in the 1990s, that spoke about the four capabilities of strategic partner, of change manager, of people champion, and of administrative expert. And we started off a couple of months ago introducing that framework, and we built on that and had an intervention around HR as a strategic partner, where we talked about strategy and how to develop and implement strategy and the role of HR in developing and implementing strategy. And then we are coming to the second competency or capability of that framework, which is HR as a change manager. So today we are going to talk about change management. What is change management and why is it important? Or rather, why is change management important? And what is change management? And then we will explore what is changing. What are some of the things that change in organizations? What is changing? If we know what change management is and why it's important, then what is changing and what are we managing? So we would explore some of that. And then thirdly, We would learn from another great scholar, in fact, foremost in the world of change management, that teaches about why transformational projects fail. Why is it that when organizations, like for example, Learning Impact, a company that I founded about 14 years ago, 13 and a half years ago, why is it that this company has embarked on a very ambitious strategy, a very ambitious plan to go from a good company to a great company? Why have we not achieved it? Why is it, for example, in Nigeria, the country that we are domiciled, why is it that in Nigeria, for example, the government, every successive government has tried to do things differently, come up with a strategy, come up with a plan, but somehow we're not even, and this happens in our companies, it happens in our societies, it happens in business, it happens in government and in not-for-profit. Why is it that sometimes we embark on transformational projects to transform our lives, but we don't succeed? Well, the answer will be discussed today, because it's really about change. What is the role of human resources management in managing change? And then we would go specifically to another model called the ADKAR model and how to manage change with ADKAR. And then we'll get the opportunity through a breakout exercise to actually practice some of that ADKAR. So today, I am hoping that we will do a little more than 1 hour that we have originally planned. And I left that little surprise for everybody. And so I know that some people maybe, may have to jump out once it is 1 hour, but I really crave your indulgence, because I want us, based on some of the feedback we received from participants, that we want to spend more time also practicing some of the things that we have learned and getting some feedback, and also asking more questions and interacting. Okay, so I'll try to keep it as tight as possible. It's just about 6 or 7 slides, and take us to where we need to do some of that practice, get some of that experiential learning, and then get some feedback from each other. Okay, so this is our high-level outline and learning objectives. So we start off with me sitting down, looking in the sky in a very photogenic picture from when I was much younger. Why is change management important? So here it is. Every day, our organizations are affected by external and internal forces. Things are going on internally and externally. And organizations in response, and also countries and families and societies in response to these internal and external forces, needs to come up with a strategy. You see the connection now, what we did before, a strategy to cope, to overcome, to surmount, to take advantage of these internal and external forces. Strategy being novel and unique ways of doing things so that we can get better. Now, once organizations implement strategy, it requires the organization itself and the people to change. It is a natural byproduct of strategy. So strategy comes from the interplay of external and internal forces. And then strategy itself causes the organization, the country, the people to change. Because if you don't change, you can't. If strategy is a new and different way of doing things, then you must change from your old ways in order to be strategic. Now, in addition to all of this natural flow of external and internal forces and strategy, the modern workplace, the modern society, and the workplace is part of that society, has become increasingly VUCA'd. The expression that the world has become more volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, and disruptive. The VUCA'd world, in addition to the normal things that happened, and all of this VUCAism started sometime just before COVID, and since COVID, we have not rested, and COVID is seemingly coming back. Therefore, change management is important, because it is required to ensure that we can cope with the external and internal forces, we can take a strategy and make it work, and that we can take advantage and surmount this VUCA'd world that we exist in. The point, ladies and gentlemen, is that, like they have always said, The only constant thing in life is change. If you are going to succeed in a world that is constantly changing, then you need to understand change management. So what is change management? Change management essentially is about managing the people side of organizational changes. That is the most basic and simplistic way to express it. What are we saying here? That organizations change, and we've talked about that just now. Change management is about managing the people side, ensuring that the people who are impacted by change are shepherded towards the change properly. The goal in its context is to increase the and to minimize or reduce the resistance to these changes. So this is basically it, very simple. We have talked about why change management is important. We have explored what change management is, the people side. And I want to make the emphasis here so that we get it. Typically, when organizations implement a strategy, they implement several projects. You know, they implement a project to build a new software. They implement a project to a country to release a new currency. You know, they implement a project to set up a new transportation system. Organizations implement a project to come up with a new performance management system. Now, here's what happens. We have all sort of learned how to do projects very well. You know, set a timeline, create a budget, um, give out responsibilities to people, you know, break it down, a work breakdown structure. Project management has evolved as a very structured and, you know, consistent practice. But here's what we've forgotten. We have often forgotten to manage the people side of the project. And this is where change management focuses on. All right. So what is changing? And I talked about some of these things already. For example, when I talked about technology and new projects and new software, and sometimes even new products. So what is changing? And I want us to think about this from two contexts. There's the macro context and there's the micro context. And those of you who are students of economics understand that the macro talks about the broad societal issues, while the micro focuses on the more specific issues in, for example, the units, being the family, the individual, the government, or even in our case, the organization. So what's that macro context? What's changing on the macro context? Social, economic, and political systems change. Regulatory and consumer expectations change. Shareholder and employee expectations change. So what am I saying here? That broadly, globally, there are changes that happen, and organizations need to cope with these changes. But interestingly, these macro changes often lead to a micro change. A micro change, as you can see on the screen, in strategies. So, for example, in response to regulatory and consumer and market expectations, organizations come up with strategies, they come up with new policies, they come up with new products. And permit me, I didn't write products. Products are very important in the micro context. They come up with new products, they come up with new jobs. So people's jobs change, you know, and it's a very emotive issue in organizations, because some people come into an organization and say, I came into this organization, for example, as a human resources person. I don't know why all of a sudden the organization is challenging me to go and do something else in operations or in business development. But guess what? It is necessary. The organization wouldn't have seconded or deployed you there if they didn't think it was necessary. It was necessary because it is in response to a strategic imperative. So people's jobs will change, people's roles will change, people's KPIs will change, technology will change, the tools that we use, our resources will change. All of meant community are the changes from a macro and a micro perspective that we will need to take advantage of and we will need to manage. So I'm going to pause here for a few minutes and just for all of us to collect everything. We've had a lot of information going out. We've talked about why change management is important, what change management is, and we've also highlighted some of that context, right, of what could be changing in our organizations. So I'd like to pause and ask, does anybody have any pertinent question, any thoughts, any comments, any arguments against some of the things that we have learned so far before we proceed? Any area you want me to touch on or re-clarify? This is a great time to pop that hand, get the opportunity to get a virtual chocolate, and I will try my best to respond to your question. Yes. Looks like the incentive of the virtual chocolate isn't working. We have a larger group now of participants, about 16 or 17 people. Anybody question, comment, clarification you would like to seek? I always tell people that when you are in a learning intervention and you are soaking up the information, you need to start interrogating it, challenging it, seeing whether it applies to your reality. And if it doesn't, that's a good time to raise your hand and, seek a clarification, ask a question. And that's very indicative of the fact that you are actually connecting with the content and actually learning. Oh, now I'm worried. Can anybody hear me? Just in case I've been speaking, my mouth has been moving, but nothing has been coming out.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you, sir.
So it probably means that, it's either the content is so straightforward or light right now. So that's maybe we should go and get some harder stuff into our stomachs right away. So there's no better place to start than from John Kotter. And John Kotter is Professor Emeritus at Harvard Business School. And he is well renowned the world over for his very interesting theory on the question, why is it that when countries, governments, corporations, companies, private organizations, NGOs, businesses, business units, departments, families, why is it that when we embark on transformational change projects, sometimes they fail? And let's define what failure means. So failure may mean that we planned to achieve something in 3 years, but it took us 10 years or 4 years. So we failed to achieve it on time, and that's failure. We should accept it. Maybe failure means we plan to spend 10 million naira, but instead we ended up spending, 15 million naira. So it didn't work out exactly as we planned. And sometimes failure may mean that we completely bungled it completely. The thing didn't work. The project had to be shut down. The business had to fail. Everybody was fired. The gates were locked. That's another example of failure. Failure, for example, in the Nigerian context, and I want to wax political here, is, for example, to say that we are meant to defend the naira, and the naira has plummeted from 700 naira to $1 to 1,400 naira to $1 this morning. So that is a failure because you were meant to, the goal socio-politically and economically was to manage the currency and manage the economy and create a stronger naira. But that hasn't happened in 9 months. If anything, it has gotten worse. So I remember many years ago, at the start of the Buhari administration, the second Buhari administration in 2015, when he was elected, I wrote this article in the newspaper, and you can actually Google it. Why the Buhari transformational agenda may fail. Not will fail, but may fail. And essentially, I was sharing from John Kotter that there are 8 reasons why transformational change projects fail. Number 1 is not creating a sense of urgency. Being like a 2-day-old pap, what we call in Nigeria, akamu, where you are, You're just passive. Without a sense of urgency, you can't achieve greatness. It's a very important John Cotter's research that organizations, departments, leaders who want to change must create a sense of urgency. You can't change by being laid back. Number two is not having a strong team. John C. Maxwell, another John, says that teamwork makes the dream work. So if you don't have a strong guiding team, if you don't have a team, another word we use in change management speak is you don't have a guiding coalition. You don't have a team of leaders across the organization who are committed to creating that sense of urgency, then you're not going to achieve that project. And I want us, as I go through eight of these reasons, I want you to be thinking about your organization, thinking about your experience in other organizations, think about your country, think about your society, think about groups you belong to, even your family. Think about some of those things that you've been trying to transform in various units in which you operate. And think about how each of these things may apply. Number three, he teaches, is failing to have a clear vision, having a clear vision, being clear about exactly where you are going. And number four, under communicating the vision, not taking time to explain to people, to carry people along, to talk to them, to get their feedback, because communication is a two-way street. So sometimes as leaders, we are guilty of telling people where we want them to go, but we're not very good at listening, receiving the feedback, and retweaking the strategy and the communication. When we fail to communicate the vision powerfully, Kotter teaches us that our change projects will fail. Number five is failing to empower people to act. People need to be empowered. Some people feel disempowered. Some people may feel that, for example, they are not given the opportunity. Some people, you give them the opportunity, they don't want to take it. They are reluctant. So when people are not empowered to act, some people don't have the resources required. And we'll talk about that shortly, to actually do the change that you want them to do. Reason number six is not creating short-term wins. And I remember the first time I was exposed to change management, it was in 2007. And I was at that time, I was a business manager. I was a regional manager at IBTC. And we had just been acquired by Standard Bank in South Africa. And, they were talking about all the change that was going to happen. And I remember the facilitator said, how long do we think it takes to change an organization? Oh, 3 months, 1 year, 2 years. And when we had all settled down, he told us quite shockingly that it could take forever. That change takes a long time to happen. However long it takes or however short it takes, what is important is that you should create short-term wins, because people can't really wait forever. So you must find a way as leaders to ensure that in the short term, people can anchor, people can see certain things and say, this journey of 40 years, at least we're making progress. This journey of 10 years, at least something is changing. And you must create those short-term wins. So you can't say that change is going to happen and people are suffering perennially every single day, forever and ever. There needs to be that effort by leaders to ensure that in the short term, there's some value that people are getting out of this change. If not, the people will become disgruntled, disenchanted, and they will not be able to stay the course of your change. And that's why the change will fail. Related to that is declaring victory too soon. Sometimes we implement a change, we get excited, we start to clap our hands and bring out the cymbals and the band and say, well done, we've done it. We've been able to change our system, whether it's a performance management system, a new product, and we're excited. But we rest, we take our eyes off the ball, we declare victory too soon. And then, unfortunately, something goes wrong. The change fails. finally, and perhaps most importantly, I think, is that even when you then achieve some momentum, you achieve some improvement, you achieve what we call in the business speak, some traction, you need to anchor the change in the culture. You need to ask yourself that whatever it is that we have achieved, however small or however big, how well have we ensured that this is now part of the DNA of the organization? That everybody is used to this system. Everybody is used to this software. Everybody is using this new performance management system. Everybody is doing things the right way in the country. So you think about transformational change efforts like, oh, we want to fight corruption. We want to fight indiscipline. We've gone through all of these things to do a belt tightening. We want to cut costs of governance. And I'm just showing you some of these broad political concepts and experiences and examples, just so that we can all relate to it. All of these, the reason why sometimes it doesn't work, no sooner have you declared victory, that you have achieved democracy, for example, but you have not really anchored it in the culture. It has not entered the bone marrow, the DNA of people. And that, ladies and gentlemen, John Cotter explains them with this very, very powerful model. So ask now is, how do people want a leading change? And I want to sell this to you from 4 perspectives. Firstly, let me just make the umbrella statement that HR plays a leading role in leading change. And here are 4 reasons why. Because HR is the driver of organizational strategy. So if HR is the driver of strategy, and strategy in itself creates change, then HR must be leading change. This is my first argument. Argument number 2 on the screen. HR is the enabler of organizational performance. The job of HR is not just to drive strategy, but it's also to enable performance, to get people to do their work and translate that strategy into a result. And I hope that I'm connecting with all of you. Nobody is thinking this guy has gone crazy. Professor has gone nuts. This is our job in HR. And if HR's job is to enable performance, therefore, and if strategy drives performance, and if strategy creates change, then I'm linking it all back again to, hey, HR must be leading change. Because without performance, the change will not happen. The change happens when the results are there, when there is less corruption, when the computer software works, when the performance management system works, when the product is selling, when our sales has grown, when our company is great. It is then that you would say that the strategy has worked. So performance is linked to strategy, and strategy is linked to change, and HR is responsible for change. HR is also the custodian of organizational culture, and this is very important. Again, strategy and performance, all of these things, remember that popular saying, and I remember, I mean, you guys interpret it as a saying, but it was, a private conversation that Peter Drucker and I had in 1956, where Peter said, Michelle, strategy, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And I know that a lot of you now parrot that and, write it, and, but I have that personal experience with Peter Drucker over breakfast, right? And essentially, culture will eat your strategy and all your plans for performance. So if HR is the custodian of culture, then HR must be the person driving the change that will be anchored in that culture, without which that change itself will fail. And then my final argument is that HR is the manager, like a customer service manager. HR is the manager of the people experience. And today we talk about people experience management. people experience management, that we want to improve the experience that our employees have. We want to create positive organizations. But while creating that positive experience, we have to recognize that change is not easy. Change is hard. Change so often ruffles people's feathers. Change is sometimes unpalatable. Change is bitter. Change is difficult. But so as a manager of people experience, you had better be very interested in managing change. Because if not, change will make the people experience thorny. It will make it difficult. So if you want to keep the people experience up, you had better pay attention to that thing, change, that has a very powerful way of making people uncomfortable. Because change actually makes people uncomfortable. That's why the first reason why change doesn't happen is, according to John Cotter, is where there's no sense of urgency. Let me tell you an expression we use to describe that in change management speak. We say, we have to put fire, we have to light fire on the bomb of our employees. That is how you create a sense of urgency. You have to make the status quo very uncomfortable for people. And that's part of change, because if you don't make the status quo uncomfortable, if it is business as usual, then it's not going to create sustainable and sustained change. So change in itself can be very unraveling and very stormy. So you as the HR person needs to manage it. If not, the people experience will not work. So this is the role of HR. This is why HR has a role in managing change. And I'm going to wrap it up now by introducing a practical model, a practical tool that I learned in 2007. Remember when I referred to so my first experience with change management was exactly what, 17 years ago. Ponytailed guy from South Africa came to us, and we were involved in this training program, a certification program on how to be a change manager. I wasn't a human resources professional at all at that time. I was a regional business development manager, but I took a keen interest in it because I could see how this model that I'm about to share with you was really very practical on a personal level, and how we could immediately implement it at that time in IBTC to create Stanbic IBTC. So I was a member of the change management team. So I was part of that guiding coalition, that strong team of leaders that were put together. We say, all of you sit down and you're going to help us ensure that Stanbic IBTC works. The merger of these two entities works. And if you think about it now, 17 years later, I mean, in 2007, IBTC Chartered Bank was certainly not in the top 15 banks in Nigeria by all indices. As a group, Stanbic IBTC Group was okay, was becoming a strong brand in the pension industry and had always been strong in the asset management industry. But today, 17 years later, Stanbic IBTC Bank, one of the members of that group, is arguably the 5th or 6th most successful bank in Nigeria on all indices. Stanbic IBTC Pensions, for example, is by all ramifications the #1 PFA in Nigeria. Stanbic IBTC Asset Management is certainly the undisputed leader in asset management and securities trading in Nigeria. So by and large, this change has achieved some success. I'm trying to give myself a pat on the back for the work that we did way back. But all of that work was built on the ADKAR model. And the ADKAR model comes from the ProSci Institute and Change Management Learning Center in the United States. And it basically says that there are 5 elements required to successfully manage change. ADKAR, ADKAR. And the elements are #1 and 2. And I like to put them together. And it's because for change to happen, first, people need to be aware. We used to have a president who seems never to be aware. You see, but so you can't change things if you're not aware. So first, people need to be aware of what is changing, and then they need to desire those changes. is what we call WIIFM. Have you heard about that radio station? It's an FM station, WIIFM. What is in it for me? It is the most favorite radio station in the world. Everybody tunes into that station. That is the station where all human beings tune in. And as a change manager, you've got to tune into that station and ask people and figure out what it's for people. You have to inform people, you have to inspire people, and everybody needs to know that the status quo, the current situation, is unpalatable. If you think change is bad, stick to the current situation and we are all heading to hell. We are all heading to perdition. This is the picture that you must cut for the people in your organization every time there's a change. We have a new software, we have a new system, we have a new product, we have new jobs, we have a new strategy. The reason why we need to pursue it with all our lives is because if we continue in the status quo, we are going to head to the rocks. This is how you fuel awareness and desire. The second set of ADKAR elements, K and another A, is knowledge and ability. You see, people cannot change if they don't have the knowledge, the skills, and the ability to change. It seems simplistic, but that's what it is. Some of the most amazing things in the world are wrapped in very simple packages. Your role as the HR manager, as a HR leader, is to ensure that employees know what is required of them, that they have the competencies, the knowledge, skills, and abilities. As HR people, you know the word competencies, and they have the resources to actually implement the change. So you can't tell people, for example, we want to start, let's say, for example, in Learning Impact, we say, oh, we want our employees to sell our brand. We want our employees to post things on social media and to talk about our products and services on social media platforms. Great initiative, great change. But if people don't know how to social media, if people don't know how to write a post, if people don't even have a machine, a computer, or access to the internet, how can you expect them to change? So as a HR person, you need to pay attention and be sure that all of those things are things that people actually have, and that the people have the skills, without which there will be no change. And the final element of ADKAR is R for reinforcement. This is what ensures that the change sticks and that it becomes part of the DNA of the organization. It enters the blood of the organization. And your role is to ensure that the leaders of the organization are exemplars, that they are exemplars of the change. If there is something you want, if you want anything to happen in this world, and I always use the political example, unfortunately, in many parts of Africa, including Nigeria, that oftentimes our leaders tell us that we are doing belt tightening. So let's tighten the belts. Let's tighten the belts. Economic adjustment program. But the leaders are wearing spandex. You know spandex? The difference is that spandex can take anything. You open it, you stuff in more money inside. So they are telling us to tighten the belt, but they are wearing spandex. The same way I've encountered leaders who have said, oh, we need to use this software, and we need to use this process, and we need to do this thing differently in the organization. But they themselves are not subjecting themselves to that process, to that change, to that new product. They are not following the government line. Instead, they're doing what they've always done, and yet they expect people to do things differently. Your job is to also ensure that there is a system of performance management that is implemented. That, because you see, apart from leadership example, you also need to ensure that there is a system that, for example, rewards people for towing the government line, and that also sanctions people for going against the new proclamation. If not, your change will not be anchored on the culture. And very importantly, your job is to also create a culture, a way of doing things that actually supports this new change. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my story, that change management is absolutely important because we are all experiencing change internally and externally. That change management is really about just ensuring that the people side of change is managed such that people are less resistant to change and more accepting of change, so that the results we want from change will happen. HR plays a very important role in managing change because of the role that you play in strategy, in culture, in performance, and in managing the experience of people. And also the fact that, there are 8 reasons why change doesn't happen. And we explore those reasons from the Kotter model. And then we have now focused on a particular tool, ADKAR. And here's the point of ADKAR. Let me slam it if I didn't say it. I said it before, that you have a project plan. It says, these are the steps we are going to take to implement this new software. These are the steps we're going to take to implement this new product. But here's where the challenge is. Running pari passu, running concurrently project plan, there needs to be a change management plan that says, what are we going to do to build awareness and desire? What are we going to do to ensure there is knowledge and ability? What are we going to do to ensure reinforcements? My dear friends, this is the pertinent question. You need to be able to put together a change management plan that addresses these 5 elements and implement. And while the product team is implementing their go-to-market strategy, when the business development people are doing, this is our go-to-market strategy, you say to them, yes, to support your go-to-market strategy, here is the change management plan. Because we have to carry the people along. Can you see? And when they're implementing a new software in IT, saying this is the new software, we're going to launch it, we're going to do UAT, we're going to do BBD, they use all those technical terms, and they're all getting excited in the IT server room. You tell them, very good. This is the change management plan, because if you implement your project plan without carrying people along, then in the words of Chigo, the Nigerian comedian, yeah, change is going to be a what? Does anybody know?
A waste.
It's going to be a waste. You have to say it like Chigo. Yeah, change is going to be a waste. It's going to be a complete waste of everybody's time. So I pause again. Questions, comments, clarifications. Who is the person who said waste?
It was me. My name is Tracy.
Oh, Tracy. This Tracy.
Okay, so question, rather a comment or rather observation. So I recently joined an organization and I've noticed that they're trying to implement a new absence management policy. However, within the HR team, there's a lot of, people are not in line. We're not in sync in how best to implement and execute this policy. So the policy is already here. Apparently, it's been approved by the executive team, but within the HR team, people are not in sync and how best to implement the policy. Like, the document is already here, so why can't we just go according to how the document says? But people are still trying to do things outside process. So how do we now align everybody to the same goal? We in HR, if we are not even on the same page, how do we now bring so for me, as a new person in this organization and in this HR team, I need to know how best to bring everybody together so that we are all working according to this policy that has been approved. I don't know.
All right. Thanks very much, Tracy, for that very nice question and very practical. And so I took the screen back to John Kotter so you can see some of the issues here. First of all, there's no clarity about the vision. So we don't even know where we're going. What do we really want? The guiding team, the HR team, that is the guiding coalition that is meant to be driving, because this is a HR initiative itself, is also not even clear. So this is double whammy problem, right? So here's what I think you can do. I think you can have that conversation internally about and try to create a sense of urgency. Try to get your colleagues in HR to see that if we within HR are not clear, if we are not purposeful, if we are not united, then there's going to be a problem. Because the absence policy was meant to solve a problem. That problem will persist. That problem, the solution to that problem will not be anchored in the culture of the organization until we in HR can get it right. So maybe what you guys need to do, I would recommend, and I will come back to ADCA now, is to go back to that concept of, are we really all on the same page about this absence policy? Let's have a meeting. Let's discuss it. You know, so there's an elephant in the parlor issue, you know, and let's all sit down. What is the policy? It has been approved. What was approved? What does it mean? Because sometimes you find that people will, so it's about knowledge, it's about ability. People will interpret, so people are looking at the exact same document and interpreting it in different ways, or choosing to it in the way that they like. HR director, leader of it, everybody needs to sit down and say, look, let's get on the same page. Remember that change is not always, it's real good change is never comfortable. If something is changing, so Tracy, what you're experiencing, I think, is your experience resistance, and the resistance, unfortunately, is coming from within HR itself. And it is because it is likely that there are aspects of that policy, and I don't know all the details, that are not palatable, that are not comfortable for everybody. But that's not how, you see, that's the reality of change. And you have to, as a HR manager, as a HR leader in that organization, you need to sit your colleagues down and get everybody to understand that that's how life is. A policy will never satisfy the idiosyncrasies of everybody in the room. It's not possible. But that policy has an intent. It is that intent that we want to achieve. Does it mean the policy is world class? Does it mean it's foolproof? No, there's no such thing. But we will learn, we will adapt, we will change. But we, as the custodians of this policy, need to be on side. Yeah? And so maybe in a private discussion you could have with the leader of the HR team, the HR director, you can share this concept about change management, how change is difficult and so on, and what you guys should pay attention to internally to help to manage change. That's the only way. There are clearly gaps, and I'm happy you can see and connect the content to what's going on in your real world. And, you know, we can always talk about it. We can chat each other. We're on the same group. Yeah. And if you need some more support, which is what the HR mentoring program is all about, I'm certainly here to support you. Yeah. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
Enjoy your virtual chocolate. Let me see. You sound like somebody that likes Toblerone. Okay. Oh my God, I missed it.
Thank you.
Enjoy your Toblerone chocolate. Yeah. Anybody else? Question before we do a little activity, like I promised. Are we learning? Let's see on the chat. Any chats? No chat. Omobolanle says yes, she can hear clearly, and she doesn't have any questions. That was almost 30 minutes ago. Omobolanle, has anything changed? Questions going? Questions going? Questions gone? All right, so here's what I would like us to do. Yeah. I'd like us to just go into, go into breakout rooms, right? And spend the next 10 minutes discussing some of the things that we have learned. So let me put the instruction on the screen. I see a question or something. Okay, Bolanle is thanking us and saying it was really enlightening. Thank you, Bolanle. So very quickly, let's spend 10 minutes in our breakout rooms. Right? I'm hoping you can see the instruction, right? So imagine a change that is going on in your own organization, whether it's a change of structure, new job roles, reporting lines, products, whatever it is. Let's just come up with something that is true to life. And ask yourself, what initiatives would you come up with? What would you do to increase awareness and desire, to increase knowledge and ability, or to ensure that there is reinforcement to support that change? And we will spend 10 minutes on this. We will come back And I would just ask each group to speak for a minute about what they discussed. And then we will be able to take our review and wrap up. So I promised a slightly longer session. I've tried to, of course, keep the conversations as short as possible. And I hope that we would enjoy the next 15 minutes that we will spend together. Is that cool, everybody? Yeah? All right. So let's jump into our room. So group one is going to deal with awareness and desire. Yeah. So I'm going to label the group I'm going to label it awareness and desire. So you will be pulled into a group called awareness and desire. I can say who the members of that group are. For example, awareness and desire has Anu, Angela, Gladys, Michael, Rabiu, yeah, are all members of that group. Then the second group is called, I'm going to call this group, what should I call the group? Knowledge and ability. Yeah, the knowledge and ability group. And in this group, we would have people like Ahmad and Angela and Joyce and Oladapo and Sheena in that group. Yeah, and that is the knowledge and ability group. And then the final group is the reinforcement group. And in that group, we have Abdul Salam and Abiola and Nkiruka and Regina and Tracy. All right. So is everybody clear about the instruction? So you're not going to do a lot of, you're not doing the entire ADCA. You're just focusing on specific things. The first group, awareness and desire. The second group, knowledge and ability. The third group, reinforcement. And all I want from you is ideas. If a particular change is taking place in your organization, like Tracy's change is about a new policy. What are some of the things you can do to build awareness and desire, to ensure there is knowledge and ability, and to sustain the change through reinforcement? What ideas? Brainstorm, come up with a few ideas, and be prepared to share it, and appoint somebody to speak on your behalf in 10 minutes. Okay? Any question on the instruction?
Okay, good afternoon. Sorry, I got kicked out as we were about to begin the breakout session, so I didn't quite get the instruction.
Okay, so the instruction is on the screen. What's your name? Who is speaking? I didn't hear.
This is Bolanle, sorry.
Okay. All right, so Bolanle. So here's the instruction. We're going into breakout rooms. We're going to imagine there is a change going on in our organizations on the screen, and you will be placed in a group where you would either be discussing initiatives to support awareness and desire, knowledge and ability, or reinforcement. Your job is to brainstorm with your group members and identify things that you can do in those specific areas. So there's an awareness and desire group, there is a knowledge and ability group, and there's a reinforcement group. And I'm going to put you into one of the groups once we open the rooms, and you guys can catch up and have 10 minutes to have those conversations. Yeah? All right. So thank you very much, Bolale, for your question. It has helped to refresh all of us. The rooms are open now. Jump into your rooms. You would get a prompt on your screen to say, join the room. Please join your rooms. So it looks like we are back. Excellent. So thank you very much, everyone, for staying with us thus far. And we're just going to wrap it up now by asking one person from each group to just share with us in 1 minute only what were the initiatives that you came up with. So I'll start with group one, the awareness and desire group. Can you please put on the microphone and share with us very quickly the initiatives you came up with? Tell us the change that you focused on and the initiatives to support. Please go ahead.
Okay, I'm Rabi. So I'll be presenting for group one. So we discussed about introduction of absence policy, just like Tracy said earlier. So in terms of the awareness, we said the first approach is for us to have a general meeting general organization meeting, which can be virtual or physical, depending on the size of the organization. Then after that, the head of departments, we also go to like their team meetings to make more clarification for staff.
Very good.
So then we say for feedback purpose, HR we leave an email address where staff can actually send email for further clarification or to give feedback to
Very
HR.
good. All
That's
right.
for the awareness. So for the desire, to create desire for this change, we said we'll be introducing incentives. Like we can have a punctuality award at the end of each month
Very good.
for staff that actually follows it well.
Excellent.
So we also talk about like we need to create a message of why behind the change. Like let people know, okay, this is why we are creating this change, so as to at least let them have a desire for it. So those
Excellent. Thanks very much.
are
Excellent, Rabi. Excellent thinking, excellent initiatives. The town hall meeting, the smaller group meetings, the incentive, the why, presentation, all of those things will certainly help in ensuring that you can create awareness and desire. Excellent. Please receive your chocolate. You look like you like Mars. You sound like a Mars kind of person. So enjoy your Mars chocolate. Thank you very much, Group 1, and thank Rabiu for doing that excellent job on behalf of your group. Let's move on to Group 2. So, and I hope the other groups, we are paying attention, we are listening, we're taking down notes, because these are pertinent pieces of information that you can use to enhance whatever initiatives that you are doing in your organization. Group 2, knowledge and ability. Who is speaking on behalf? Where are the Group 2 people? Group 2? Nobody from Group 2? Okay, so it looks like knowledge and ability people. Let's see. There are people there. Nobody? You didn't decide or you didn't finalize? Okay, we can jump to Group 3 then. Group 3.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Okay, so my name is Tracy again, and so I'm representing Group 3. And we also said to use the absence policy as an example, which I was very glad for, because now I've gotten expo to give when I go back to work on Monday. So, and for Group 1 too, thank you for the expo. I've jotted down a few things you were saying, which were very relevant to my situation. Okay, so for Group 3, we talked about reinforcement. So we kind of linked reinforcement to culture because it ties with culture. And part of the reinforcement, we talk about recognition and rewarding. Recognize and reward people who are, who are compliant to the new policy, and we'll recognize them as our change champions. And then we also talked about penalizing those who do not comply, and then we also talked about, carrying out refreshers and continuous training. So maybe every quarter or every mid-year, we just do like another refresher on the policy, maybe just highlight some key points, maybe send out like a one-pager infographic to everybody just to highlight some key points of the policy so that everybody is still refreshed in their minds. And then also getting feedback from the employees, and evaluating this policy. We can also be every quarter or every mid-year, just so that we can know what is working, what good looks like.
Excellent.
And so on.
Excellent, Tracy. And I want to add one of my favorites to it. Since it's an absence policy or things that have to do with people showing up on time, is imagine those pictures of your executives getting to work, clocking in, thumbprinting, or filling the book themselves, and those pictures. So using those pictures as a, as a sign, that look, here's our general manager this, here's our executive director that, here's our chief operating officer complying with the policy and, you know, being a good boy or being a good girl. You know, it's a signal that you are sending to the people to say they're not born you well, as we say in Nigeria. That if you see your guys that are doing this, then how dare you fail to comply? You know, that kind of thing. So that could also be something that you do, because you don't only want leaders to be exempt, but you want to show that in fact that your leader is doing the right thing. That really helps. Excellent. Thank you very much, Tracy. If you click another, you will get virtual Jetty on the top about. Yeah. So okay. Someone said that there was a mix-up, that group 1 was meant to speak on awareness and desire, and Michael was meant to speak. I agree that there's a group called awareness and desire. So I'm not sure how it all played out. Maybe 2 groups ended up doing awareness and desire. Is that what I'm to understand from Anu? Is that it? So it seems, Rabiu, what your group was it assigned? Because unfortunately now the system has thrown out all that information, but it's okay. I guess that maybe there was a mix-up somewhere, and one group was meant to do awareness and desire, and another group was meant to knowledge and ability. You know, but at the end of the day, it looks like 2 groups did the same thing. The important thing is that anyway, we get the concepts, we have learned. We wish we could have gotten that input about knowledge and ability, which is usually about training and FAQs and resources that are required for people to do their work. But I think overall, it's been a valuable interaction over the last 1 hour and 10 minutes or thereabouts. And I'm confident that all of us can explain the importance of change management, what it is, and we are able to make a case for improving change management in our organizations. I'm also confident that you cannot explain to anybody who asks why the best efforts of your organization sometimes may not be leading to the strategic success that you want. And it's really because of one of those 8 reasons why transformational change efforts fail. That you can also discuss your role as a human resources manager and the role of a human resources department in leading change in the organization and the rationale behind you playing that role. And of course, very importantly, that you can, as we have practiced, develop initiatives and come up with a plan using the ADKAR model. So like I always say at the end of my trainings, in the area of change management, I urge all of you to go and sin no more. And I would like to thank all of our participants, from Anu to Abdul Salam to Abiola to Ahmad to Angela, to Joyce, to Gladys, to Michael, Nkiruka, Omobolale, Rabiu, Regina, Sheena, and to my sister from the same mother, Tracy, who joins the Barrow HR triplets of our mother, who is a HR practitioner, and then the 2 of us. Tracy, I've let the secret out of the bag for those who may not have known.
Yeah. Try to be animals like.
Try to be yes, it works since we don't have the same surname any longer. Can pull it off. Yeah. All right. So thanks everybody for your participation. Thanks to our host, Learning Impact, and behind that is Ogo, who is been managing this aspect of the program. Thank you very much, Ogo, for putting this up, ensuring that everything works properly. Thanks to the internet, it wasn't always 100% all the time, but at least we're grateful. And thanks to God for giving us this opportunity. The conversations continue on the WhatsApp group. Feel free to put out your questions, put out your thoughts. There will be more, what do you call them? There will be more materials that will be shared right there on the WhatsApp group. So feel free to join in those materials. Are we able to take very quickly a group picture? If as many of us who can put on our video, or you can take a very quick group picture, that will certainly be valuable before we close. Yeah, are we able to do that? Let's see. Yes, I can see a few people putting on there. Very good, Michael. Thank you. All right, let's see who else can give us their face so that we can see. Thank you very much, Sheena. Yes. Yeah, we can take some pictures or go fire on with the pictures, as many as you can. Yeah. Yeah, so we can have something that says it wasn't robots that were here, it was real human beings. Yeah. All right. Excellent. Thank you all. And so long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye. Goodbye.
All right. Thank you, Bishop.
If training not work, if you try music, take care. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks so
Bye.
much.
Everyone.
Remember, conversations continue on the group, so let's keep the conversations on the group. Let's keep learning, and let's keep.
How do we join the group?
It's a WhatsApp group, so here. So I'm hoping that somebody can provide a phone number. So who asked for how can we join the group? Let me just answer you directly.
Gladys.
Gladys, so here's what you can do. Take down my number. It's
Okay.
0818
0818
195
195
61
61
61.
61. Okay.
Yeah? And you can just chat me up on WhatsApp. Just say this is Gladys from the HR
Okay.
Champions, and I will add you to